Hey guys, so today we have Hardik with us. So thank you so much, Hardik, for coming to the live. I saw your actually Facebook post on Facebook, and then I was like inclined, okay, like let's make Hardik to come live on Facebook group, impart knowledge to people because you are a tax consultant, and many of the freelancers or community or people in this community ask me questions about well, how to manage taxes. And since I'm not an expert, I was not able to give a good advice to them. So I thought let's bring in Hardik. A quick introduction about him. He's a copywriter and a brand consultant, as a tax consultant to freelancer and business owner. But this is a quick introduction, but I believe Hardik can give a good introduction about himself in a much better way. So thank you so much, Hardik. Please can you tell us about yourself to our audience?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Nawal, for inviting me to your group today. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a benefit-driven copywriter, and I help both brands and individuals to communicate their brand story to their target audience. Besides, I am a tax consultant to busy influencers and digital freelancers because taxation is something that impacts all of our lives,
Absolutely.
but at the end of the day, we don't know how it impacts us.
Okay.
So that is why I help busy influencers and digital freelancers to handle their taxes, sort out their mess up personal finance, and just help them take their money better, money related decisions.
Okay, that's awesome. So how come the copywriter part? Do you write the copies as well?
Yeah, so I write the copy as well. I come from the chartered accountancy background that allows me
Mhm.
to consult on the taxation part, and because I'm a copywriter by profession, so of course that is what I do for my bread and butter.
Okay, awesome. करण is saying income tax वाले से बचा हाँ हार्दिक बचाएंगे कोई दिक्कत नहीं. Okay, Hardik. So let's start. So can you just tell something about like the basics of tax management, like how to manage taxes as a freelancer or as an agency owner specifically?
Sure. So first things first, I'd like to make one thing clear that both for the purpose of income tax and GST, because these are the two main taxes applicable in India, whether you work with clients in India or whether you work with clients outside India, GST and income tax are the two main tax that you have to take care of. There is always third type of tax, which is TDS, but it is covered under Income Tax Act. Broadly, there are two main taxes. Now, both for the purpose of income tax and GST, a freelancer is considered a full-fledged business owner. So in India, we always think of freelancers as something who are doing side gigs or who are doing side hustles. But at least for the purpose of taxation, a freelancer is a full-fledged business owner who's earning his or her income from a business, or more probably from a profession point of view. So a freelancer is always considered where he or she is providing services to the clients and getting paid in return for them. That is overall how income tax and GST are structured for freelancers.
Okay, okay, okay. So, just talking about like some of the questions because like my students ask this like,
Hmm.
does a freelancer have to pay GST if he is working, if he has or she has the clients outside of India, or particularly if he is working with clients with respect to like if he or she has clients in India only, then only he has to pay GST. So, can you please like give more light on that particular question?
Okay, I think a great question. So first of all, whether you work with clients outside India or whether you work with clients inside India, both for the purpose of income tax and GST, they are just your clients. So income tax and GST don't differentiate between, except for in terms of, I'll cover that part also in the GST. But first of all, the moment your turnover, or turnover means the income that you are earning from all the clients, both international and the local clients, the moment that income crosses 20 lakh rupees, then you have to register yourself mandatorily for GST. Of course, you can always register yourself for GST even if you don't have crossed the 20 lakh limit, in which case you will have to register voluntarily. But the moment your turnover or gross receipts crosses 20 lakh limit, you have to do it compulsory. And the moment you register yourself for the GST part, now let's talk about the Indian clients first of all. Even if you provide services worth rupees 1,000 rupees to a client, or whether you provide services worth 1 crore to a client, you have to create an invoice and you have to charge GST in that
GST.
invoice.
Okay.
So, say for
Irrespective
example,
if you have a GST number or not.
no, no. So as I mentioned,
Only if.
if you are registered under GST, then only you have to
Okay,
do
okay.
it. But if you
Then,
don't register yourself in GST, you won't have a number, and in that case, you cannot charge GST. It is a crime. So after you get registered in GST, whether you provide services worth 1,000 rupees or whether you provide services worth 1 crore rupees, you have to charge GST in the invoice and collect it from your client. As far as your international clients are concerned, when you work with clients outside India, it is considered export of services, which means you are exporting your services outside India. And export of services is always GST free. So you don't have to charge any GST in the invoice. Of course, there are two main options that you can do. Either you don't have to charge GST at all, or the second is where you can charge GST in the invoice, pay it from your own pocket to the government, and get a refund of it at a later stage. But generally, most freelancers would just file letter of undertaking, which you have to file compulsorily. And in that case, you don't have to pay any GST to the government. You can just export your services without charging GST.
Got it. Okay, so just to be clear, the person who is working with clients outside of India, he does not have to pay GST. He cannot charge GST because it is like the service is under export services. It is
Yes.
under export services. If your income level is about 27 or your revenue is about 20 lakhs, so then you have to mandatorily take the GST number and charge GST. So can you also like define basically the tax slabs that a freelancer can have? Basically, like some of my students are earning 10 lakhs, some of my students are earning 25 lakhs in a month. So how can he or she manage taxes in that particular like in that particular income basically?
Okay. So before answering your question, Naval, I would also like to differentiate one more point, because this is one question that almost every freelancer asks me, where they say that Hardik, the moment we register ourselves for GST, we'll have to pay double taxation because we are already paying income tax and now we will have to pay GST also. So GST and income tax differ from each other in three main points. First, income tax is your direct tax. Now, direct tax is where you have to pay tax from your own pocket. So income tax is a direct tax, but GST is not a direct tax. It is an indirect tax, which means you never have to pay even a single penny from your pocket. You collect it from your clients and just deposit it with the government. So in no case, government is charging GST directly from you. Government is saying you that, hey, just work for your clients, collect GST from them and deposit it with us. Simple as that. The second point is why people also, sometimes think that, okay, whether I have to pay GST or income tax is always charged on the profit amount. It is never charged on the income amount. But as I mentioned, GST is always charged on your invoice amount. So you don't deduct any expenses, you do nothing like that. You just calculate the total income and then charge GST on that. So these are the two main differentiating points between GST and income tax that we always have to consider.
Okay.
Now, coming to the income tax, for the purpose of income tax, your income is considered as your income from business or profession. So, like Income Tax Act considers that you are a full-fledged business owner or a professional providing services to people. Now, if we come to the income tax slab, there are two main regimes. One is your old tax regime, and the second is your new tax regime. For now, I'll just focus on the old tax regime because it is simpler, it is more lucrative, and it is more beneficial for the freelancers. So under the old tax regime, till 2,50,000 rupees. Now I'm talking of the taxable income. I'm not talking of the total income. So taxable income will always mean income minus expenses minus deductions, and then the taxable income comes. So up to income of 2,50,000, you don't have to pay even a single tax. From 2,50,000 to 5 lakh rupees, you have to pay 5% tax. From 5 lakh rupees to 10 lakh rupees, you have to pay 20% tax. And for any income over 10 lakh rupees, you have to pay 30% tax. That's how the income tax slab has been devised. It is for all the individuals, including the freelance.
Okay, so just to be clear, under 2.5 lakhs, a freelancer doesn't have to pay any tax. 2.5, about 2.5, there are certain slabs under which he or she has to pay a certain amount of tax. Now, many of my students or many of the people who are doing freelancing as of now, but they want to like save tax in that like if they are into like under a certain slab. So is there any way that they can like save that particular amount of tax? Because if he or she is earning more than like 10 lakh or 15 lakhs, then they have to pay 30% tax, that as you mentioned. So it amounts to a lot of income. So is there any way that they can like save tax, or what are the ways through which they can like save tax?
Okay, I think the biggest benefit or the biggest gift for freelancers is Section 44 ADA. Now I'll just tell you in a very simple language. So there is this presumptive taxation scheme that has been given by the Income Tax Act, because as I mentioned, freelancers are always considered business owners, and if you are doing a business, You will also do expenses. You will pay salaries to people. You will also take a place on rent, or you'll incur all these kind of expenses. And income tax department considers that. So what income tax department sees you that, hey, you don't have to pay tax on the entire income that you earn from your clients. Deduct the expenses that you have incurred during the year and just pay tax on the profit amount. But what happens as freelancers, we generally don't maintain accounting records. We just maintain records in our Excel sheet, and that's it. In that case, the income tax department says you that you can avail the benefit under presumptive taxation scheme. What does it mean? It means that you can consider up to 50% of your income as expenses without showing anything, without presenting any records. Just reduce 50% of your income as expenses and pay us the profit on the remaining 50%.
Okay.
So say, for example, if a person is earning 15 lakh rupees a year, ideally his profit amount will be only 7.5 lakh rupees. And then he can calculate tax on that and pay it to the firm. So that way you have actually saved the 7.5 rupees just in a flash by using the presumptive taxation scheme. But it is applicable only till you have earned 50 lakh rupees in a year. If you earn more than 50 lakh rupees in a year, presumptive taxation scheme does not apply to you.
Okay. Okay, that's a good way. Can a freelancer do that thing? Like, can he register himself as a sole proprietor? He can register a company, and he is not earning, like, his revenue is in the range of like 15 to 20 lakhs. He does not have to mandatorily take GST, so he can take the revenue on his company and then pay a salary to himself under the tax slab, so that he pays a minimum tax. So that can be done to save the tax as well.
Not as such. The reason is, if you register yourself as a sole proprietor, you will have to take the GST number, because if you want to register as a sole proprietor, taking the GST number is the only way. Other than that, there is nothing called a sole proprietorship that exists in the Indian Tax Act. And even if you register yourself as a sole proprietor, whatever your business earns is considered income of yourself also. So your personal self also. So it does not make sense where you register yourself. Of course, if you form a partnership firm or a company or anything like that, then it makes a sense. But if you register yourself as a sole proprietor, it does not make any sense, because your business income is considered your personal income also.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. So these are like some of the ways through which like freelancers can save money. If you have like taxes are basically.
Naval, I'll also add one more thing. When it comes to saving taxes and all, especially the section 80C. Now, 80C for people, I'll explain this. So there are certain investments, there are certain expenses that you can claim in order to save your taxes. One, the foremost is where if you have any term insurance policy, if you have an LIC policy, if you are repaying your home loan, these all expenses are considered as your deductions, and you can actually deduct your taxable income to reduce tax on that. Apart from that, if you have taken medical insurance for you or your parents, if you have given any donations during the year, these all expenses and investments. So I cannot give you an exhaustive list right now, because the list is really long. You have to consult your tax consultant for that. But there are certain investments and deductions that you can actually claim to reduce your taxable income and technically pay. So probably if you're earning, say, around 12 lakh rupees, 13 lakh rupees a year, you have to pay zero income tax on that. You just have to get in touch with your tax consultant, and they can easily tell you the ways through which you can legally. I'm not saying that you have to, conceal your income or you have to hide your income. Legally, you can actually pay zero tax on an income up to 12 lakh rupees. You just have to know the deductions, the sections under which you can claim these deductions.
This is actually very, very nice. 12x is a good amount. So please, guys, consult your consultant, CA consultant, or consult Hardik. He will provide. He will share what is actually needed. So actually, this is taxes or finance is a very, very complicated subject for me as well, and some of the students or some of the people. So if you guys, if you are watching, if you have any particular question, do mention in the comment. Hardik will answer that as well. Okay. So you mentioned like the taxable slab. So other than that, there is no taxable income as such for freelancers. It comes. The taxes are normal as. This under the slabs which you have mentioned. There is no other thing which under which they have to like pay any taxes other than GST, I believe.
Yeah, so I'll explain one thing over here, because trust me, Naval, if there is this one question that strikes the mind of every freelancer and that every freelancer is worried about, why in the world my client is paying me less than what I should get. So I sent the invoice for 60,000 rupees to my client, but when he sent me the amount, he just sent me 54,000 rupees. He actually kept 6,000 rupees with him in the name of TDS. What is this TDS? So I'll explain how this TDS works. TDS is nothing but a form of income tax payment. So even when the client is deducting TDS from your payment, he is not keeping it with himself. He has to deposit it with the government against your PAN number. How does this TDS work? So under the section 194J, all the clients will deduct 10% TDS at the time of making payment. Usually, if they are paying you more than 30,000 rupees, whether at one time or at cumulatively during the year, they will actually charge 10% TDS. And then they will deposit this TDS with the government against your name, against your PAN number. And when you file your income tax return, at that time you will calculate your final tax liability that, okay, this is my final tax amount. You will reduce the TDS amount from that final tax amount and only pay the remaining amount to the government. And if in case the client has deducted more TDS, but your final tax amount is less than that, you can get a refund from the government also. So TDS is not a third type of tax. TDS is not alien. It is just a form of income tax payment that you are actually paying before filing your income tax returns, and on your behalf, the client is paying it to the government.
Okay, and one more question regarding this. Like, is the TDS only 10%, or there are like different slabs for TDS also? For example, like I believe like I provide marketing services, so for me the TDS is only about like 2%, I guess. So is that so?
See, I'll tell you, your client is actually doing it incorrectly, because 2% is generally for the contract services. So unless and until, I'll explain this to you. So what happens if you're providing contractual services, then the client will deduct 1% or 2% TDS. But generally the marketing
services in the sense, can you explain more about it?
Contract generally comprises goods and services. We are also selling certain goods. So for example, say if you are in the business of construction, so you will supply goods also, the material also to the person, and you will also do services for them, such as construction of houses. That is generally what contract means. But sometimes clients do it incorrectly, but generally marketing services, all the freelancer related services are covered under the section 194G, where you have to where the clients have to deduct 10% TDS.
10%. Okay.
Apart from that, what also happens if you're working with freelance platforms like Upwork, like TrueLancer, etc., they will deduct 1% TDS, because all these e-commerce platforms have to deduct 1% TDS at the time of making payments to you. Other than that, generally there won't be any other TDS slab that will be applicable to a freelancer. Of course, there are a lot of other TDS slabs, but they won't be applicable to freelancers.
Got it. Okay, so just to basically make it clear, the TDS is usually 10%, which you can claim when you are filing your return actually. So like whatever the TDS is deducting, you will get back either in the form of cash if your tax is low. If you are paying good amount of tax, then the TDS will get deducted from the payable amount. I guess that's correct. You see, my knowledge is very poor in financial matter. Okay? So I am also understanding how this works actually. Okay, so one person is asking, what if the client deducts the amount and does not pay the government?
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. So first of all, how do you check? Because the client may say that yes, I've deposited the money with the government, but has he done it in actual? So there are two ways to do it. One is, see, of course, you cannot just know it instantly whether the client has deposited with the government, because what happens after the client deducts your TDS, they will file their TDS returns, which is on a quarterly basis. So it may so happen that if they deducted your amount, say in your July, they might file their income tax returns by September, because that is the due date. But whenever the client has filed their TDS returns, after that, within 15 days, you can ask for Form 16A from them. So tell your client that, hey, as soon as you have actually filed your TDS returns, and after once the Form 16A is due, please provide me a Form 16A. That will contain your name, your PAN number, the amount that client has paid to you, the amount that client has deducted as TDS, and the amount that client has deposited with the government. So that is the first way. We're going to ask for Form 16A from the client, and client has to provide it anyways to you, because he's under the legal implications to provide that Form 16. The second is, you can yourself check it by logging into your income tax website and downloading Form 26AS. Form 26AS is a tax credit statement where whatever the amount that is getting deposited against your PAN number with the government will reflect it. So it is a government document. Government will reflect all the TDS amounts after the client has deposited your TDS with the government and filed his TDS returns. So just go on the income tax website, download 26AS, and there you will see all the TDS payments that have been deducted against your PAN number by all the clients. So these are the two main ways through which you can cross-examine if the client has actually deposited your TDS with the government or not.
I hope Shreyas it was clear. You have made the notes. Otherwise, Hardik will charge you if you take consultation from him. Okay? So guys, please like ask your questions. Otherwise, you will have to pay money. Okay. Okay. So as you mentioned, Hardik, so like there are certain slabs and there are some ways to save tax. Is there any easy way for a simple guy like me who does not have much knowledge about finance to basically just fill out some of the details in an Excel sheet and calculate, take it, this is my like taxable amount. Is there any kind of a simple way that you can share with us?
See, now I'll counter question you. Of course, I want to run Facebook ads. I want to do digital marketing also. Is there a simple way through which I can generate leads? I cannot. There are a lot of YouTube videos available. So that is how it works for text also. Of course, you can read various articles. You can watch YouTube videos also, but it takes time. So you have to clearly, you have to understand how taxation works. What are certain deductions that are available? Because if you do a mistake, you can get slapped with an income tax notice also. So I won't necessarily suggest you to go just for a tax consultant just because I'm a tax consultant myself. I would suggest you because if you consult a professional, they will give you certain things that you may not know yourself. Say, for example, if someone has kids and he's paying education fees for his kids, that education fees is also can also be claimed as a deduction, and tax can be saved because of that in school fees. But as a as a novice or as a non-finance guy, you cannot know this deduction. And many times, even chartered accountants or tax consultants don't tell you this. So you have to clearly understand, tell all the details possible to your tax consultant, and then tell them that, hey, now I want to save my taxes. How can you help me do that? That is how you have to proceed.
So the best way is to basically understand something and then like consult, because yes, as you told, it is very very, very right. Like as a marketer, I also say the same thing, that there is no specific way to generate leads. It is totally dependent upon the project and what are the objective.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, so this is Bhushan. Okay, so Bhushan says, what about the tax if we deal with international clients?
Okay, so Bhushan, I've already covered a part of it where I mentioned that for the purpose of GST, if you work with international clients, it is considered export of services. You don't have to pay any GST on that. But even then also, say for example, sometimes what happens, Naval, people just work with international clients and their turnover crosses 20 lakh rupees. And they feel that since because I don't have to pay GST on this, I will not get registered myself. It doesn't work this way. The moment your income crosses 20 lakh rupees, you have to register for GST compulsorily. But it's just that because it is export of services, you don't have to pay GST on that. But then also you have to file your GST returns on time. You have to file a letter of undertaking to tell the GST department that, hey, please don't collect GST on that because it is my international client. So you have to do all these things then also. For the purpose of income tax, there is no such difference, because even if you're working with international clients or you're working with Indian clients, you can claim presumptive taxation scheme. You can claim all the deductions possible. The only difference is your international clients won't deduct TDS, whereas your Indian clients will deduct TDS. So that is the only difference in income tax. Other than that, whether you work with international clients, whether you work with Indian clients, there is no such difference.
Okay, so you just have to be pushing your income tax, like whatever the tax slab you are in, and you don't need to necessarily take the GST number. But yes, if your turnover crosses 20 lakhs, then obviously you will have to take the GST number. That is mandatory. Okay, there are like any penalties if you don't take GST number if your turnover crosses 20 lakhs? Are there any such penalties regarding that?
Yeah, definitely. Even there are, you can even go to a jail also, because if you have to register yourself for GST, but you don't do that, and GST department comes to know of it, first of all, whatever the turnover that you have crossed after 20 lakh rupees, they will charge GST on that, and that you cannot collect from your client. That you will have to pay from your pocket. And then there are prosecution charges also that can be actually levied against you. There is a specific penalty of 10,000 rupees. So there are several penalties if you don't register yourself for GST.
Okay, got it. So if you don't want to go to jail, then please register your GST if your revenue is more than 20 lakhs. Like it is like people basically take action because of the fear. So that is why like fear is necessary to show like this is why you have to,
Yes.
like, otherwise.
And then there's a benefit also. So as I mentioned, there is a benefit also. Whether you register yourself for GST, you don't have to pay anything from your pocket, except for filing returns or filing those forms, etc. You don't have to pay anything from your pocket. You collect GST from your clients and just deposit it with the government. So there is no downside to registering yourself under the GST Act.
Under the GST, yes, yes, yes. Okay, awesome. So, other than the ways you mentioned, like, are there any ways to reduce the tax liability? Like, we can claim the expenses. Obviously, we can like claim any of the policies that we have taken. And if we are like living in our parents' home, can we like showcase that as a rent also and claim
You
that?
can do that. You can actually do that. But there, first of all, you will have to transfer rent every month to your parents' account, bank account. That's the first clause.
Okay.
The second is your parents have to show that particular transfer as a rental income in their income tax return. So these are the two things. And third is where you have to actually create a contract, a rent agreement, get it signed from your parents, sign it yourself as a tenant. So do these three things. So ideally, say for example, if you fall under the 30% tax slab, where your income is more than 10 lakh rupees, but your parents either they don't have any income, or even if they have any income, their income is under the 5% or 20% tax slab. Then it makes a lot of sense where you actually transfer money every month to your parents' account and get the rent reduction under Section 80GG. So I won't get into the
Yeah.
technicalities of it, but you can actually save up to 60,000 rupees per year. And if you fall under 30% tax slab, that actually saves 18,000 rupees of tax. But transfer the amount every month to your parents' account. Tell them that they have to file their income tax return and show your income as a rental income. And third, get a contract between you and your parents. But you can do that legally. There is nothing that stops you.
Nothing. Are there any like any other smart ways through which like people can save tax?
Yeah, as I mentioned, so that is one thing. And other than that, if you have kids and you are paying education fees for them, use that to save tax. The third is where if you have an education loan also, because today a lot of people take education loan, and if you're paying your education loan, repaying your education loan, whatever the interest component that you pay in the education loan installment, you can claim it to save your tax. So that is another expense that you can claim. Apart from that, if you're also, if you have also taken a home loan and if you're paying interest and principal every month or every year, whatever you're doing that, you can claim that also under the Income Tax Act to save tax. So there are a lot of deductions available. That is why I mentioned that, in fact, sometimes chartered accountants or tax consultants also don't tell about every deduction. So just tell everything that you can to your tax consultant, and then tell them that, hey, now tell me how you can save my tax. So they will be happy to, they'll be able to save a lot of taxes for you.
Got it. Got it. Okay, awesome. So, guys, if you have any other questions, please do mention in the chat, in the comment section, so that Hardik can answer. Okay. So many of the people ask me like, Naval, is it good you start as a company, register as a company, or start as a solo freelancer? So, obviously, like I tell them based upon my experience, but based upon you, like, what should be the best way for a freelancer to start? Like, either as a solo freelancer without like registering a company, or by registering a company.
Okay, so there cannot be, just one answer to this question, like one specific answer, but I'll still say, unless you plan to raise funding, from, investors and all, or you plan that your business has become really huge, which means you're earning, 5, 6, 7 crore rupees a year. That is what you are earning. It does not make sense that you register yourself as a company. Because the moment you register as a company, one, there is a huge compliance cost included. Second, closing a company is actually really, really expensive. It is more expensive than opening a company if you want to close a company later. Third, you cannot actually transfer freely the amount that you earn in the company account to your own account, because there are a lot of restrictions that are involved on the drawings and that are included on the director's money, because you become the director to the company. So always and always try that you register yourself as a freelancer, at least till your income is 70, 80 lakh rupees, 90 lakh rupees a year. And after that, once you become really huge, where you create an agency or you're earning crore of rupees a year, then it makes sense that yes, you register yourself as a company. But unless other than that, please be a solo proprietor. That's the best.
Just one more thing in that particular aspect. For example, if a freelancer is earning 50 lakh rupees, so by his name, can he take the GST number as well? Because then he will come under the GST thing.
Yeah, so see what happens for the purpose of GST. If you want to take, if you want to register yourself as a sole proprietor or a solopreneur, your
Mhm.
PAN number is actually the number that you have to give to the GST department at the time of filing a GST registration. And your own name, because your PAN number will have your name. So your name will actually become the legal name for the GST purpose. Of course, there is an option of trade name also where you can include your agency's name. But for the purpose of
Mhm.
GST, your name will be the legal name of the company. So you can very
Got
well take a GST number in your PAN number
it.
and just open a current account, because for the purpose of current account, if you want to open a current account in a bank, you require a GST number compulsory.
Got it. Awesome. Okay. And since like if someone is thinking to start a company or register a company, what is the best way? Like can like or a best company that you can form? For example, like there is an option available of private limited, LLP, sole proprietor. So if someone has a partner, for example, I have a partner. So which option should I choose? Either I should go for private limited or should I go for LLP? And what are the pros and cons if you can mention it in a brief manner?
I think, Naval, that will actually take 3 or 4 hours for that. But even then also, but then also you see, it completely depends on the objectives that you have. I tell you, there is partnership firm that you can open, normal
Mhm.
partnership firm. There is LLP that you can open. There is private limited
Mhm.
company that you can open. There is one person company that you can open. So you
Mhm.
actually have four types. Apart from the sole proprietor, of course, there are four main kind of
Mhm.
entities that you can have, and each of them
Mhm.
have their own pros and cons. So depending
Mhm.
upon what you plan to do with it and how comfortable you are,
Mhm.
because the moment you open a LLP or a private limited company, your personal liability becomes zero. So even
Mhm.
even if the company takes loan and even if the company goes bankrupt by any chance tomorrow, people will not
Mhm.
personally ask you that you have to pay the amount, because your company is
Mhm.
liable, not personally you. But whereas the
Mhm.
compliance cost is really high, and you cannot just
Mhm.
freely transfer the company's amount the company's money to your own money. Then the company's
Mhm.
money is extremely different and your money is extremely different.
Mhm.
So for a freelancer, you have to really take care of a lot of things yourself, and you really have to take care of a
Mhm.
lot of implications.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you will have to pay a lot of tax, and there are these jail provisions also.
Mhm.
So it depends
Mhm.
on what you plan to do, and then only get yourself registered as a company or as a LLP or as a
Mhm.
private as a partnership firm.
Got it. So it is better to like consult some or consult you basically before starting a company because like there are like many complications involved and the objectives are very very different. So it
Yes.
is better to basically like consult. Okay. Okay. So we are live for about like 32 minutes. If there are like any questions that you have, please share that. And by the time, Hardik, if you want to basically share something that can be useful for the people over here, please do that so that like they can benefit that, from that as well.
Okay, so I will tell just three things. One, that
Mm-hmm.
now onwards, even if you have not recorded your money till now onwards, go to a Excel sheet and just start recording every penny of income that you earn and every penny of expense that you incur. So it may be a 5 rupee expense that you are incurring, or it may be a 1 crore income you are earning. Record
Mm-hmm.
everything in an Excel sheet. That's the first thing that you should do.
Mm-hmm.
The second is, don't be afraid of taxes, because in any case, if you earn really good enough, neither me nor any other tax consultant in this world can save a lot of taxes for you. Because a lot of time people come to me and say that, okay, Hardik, I earn 30 lakh rupees a year. Can you actually tell me how I can pay zero tax on that? And I tell them, neither I can do that nor any other tax consultant in this world, because you're earning 30 lakh rupees a year. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to pay good tax on that. So don't be
Mm-hmm.
under the misassumption, misconception that a person can actually pay zero tax on every bit of income. As I mentioned, up to 12 lakh rupees, 13 lakh rupees, 14 lakh rupees, it is doable. But even then
Mm-hmm.
also there are a lot of other things involved. But after a point in time, you have to pay a lot of money on tax. And
Mm-hmm.
the third thing is, start investing your money. So don't just, invest your money in tax saving instruments like LIC just because they save your tax. Have your financial goals clear, because I give financial planning consultancy also to people, and I tell it
Mm-hmm.
to every client that have your financial goals clear and then invest your money. Because if you are earning good money from these financial instruments, you can always pay certain additional tax. So don't just say invest your money to save tax, invest your money to achieve your financial goals.
Got it. I guess we need to have a separate session for how to basically invest your money because that is also a very huge topic. And this also question came into my mind when I was like when I started freelancing after like about like one and a half year. I was earning a good amount of money. I was earning like $2,000 to $4,000 a month. So after a year it became a good sum of money, which I had only in bank. Actually, I was not using it, so I had it in a bank. So then I thought how to invest. So I guess like experts like you here come into play, and then we should take advice from you, okay, how I can invest that money, because then it would be like laying in the bank only. कुछ होगा तो है नहीं, बढ़ेगा ही नहीं.
And if you're keeping your money in the bank account, I will tell you are destroying it. Over the
Yeah.
time, actually the value will reduce. So
Yes,
if
yes.
you're keeping your money in a saving bank account, it's equal to that you're spending it somewhere. So don't think that just because someone is saving their, saving their money in a bank account, they are actually accumulating wealth. They are destroying their wealth.
Understanding the true, true. Okay, so we have first 5 more minutes, and we will take a couple of questions. So Shreya says, is the income of Indian clients and international clients considered separately or as one single income?
One single income. So for the purpose of GST or for the purpose of income tax, I'll again reiterate this. In GST, there is just one difference, that if you are providing services to international clients, it is export of services, no GST on that. In income tax, whether you earn from India or if you earn from outside India, it is considered just one single income for you. There is no difference between the location of clients as far as taxation is concerned. Income tax is concerned. There is no difference.
Got it. I hope Shreya said is clear. And Subrata asks how to get TDS refund, which is deducted from the freelance market.
File your income tax returns. If you don't file your income tax returns, there is no way you can get a refund of the TDS. So even if your income is less than the taxable income, just file your income tax returns. Your final tax liability will be zero, and whatever the amount that you have already paid to the government as TDS, you will be able to get a refund of that. So income tax return filing is compulsory.
Got it. Okay, I hope Subrat that is clear. So if you have any other questions, please do mention in the comment. Hardik will take care later on. And I believe many person who will watch later will have certain questions as well. So if there any, is there any way that they can contact you if you provide any consultation services? Can you please share that link as well so that like people can contact you? It will be beneficial for those as well. Do share that. And if you have anything else to share, that would be great. Otherwise, we will wrap up the session.
I don't have anything except than that if you want to really learn taxation in the simplest way possible, I'll include a little bit of promotion over here. I'll plug into that. So just follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram, because that is where I actually simplify taxes for you. That is how Naval and I also connected.
Yeah.
So, and not just me, just focus on anyone, whoever you want to consult or whoever you want to follow. Ankur Wariko, Raj Shamani, there are a lot of good people that you can follow. Just follow these people because they really simplify taxation in personal finance.
Got it. Yes, actually, Hardik really like post good post on Facebook. So please do connect with him on Facebook. I will post the links, and if anyone wants to take consultation, please I will share the link that as well. Hardik, you can share it with me. I will share it in the group. That would be really helpful for the people. So thank you so much, Hardik, for coming in. And if someone has any doubts, you are in the group. If you can just reply into the comments, that would be very, very helpful. So thank you so much, man, for coming in. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Same here, Naval. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, one more thing. I am hosting a workshop next week. It is for freelancers. If you want to basically get clients, international or national, so that you can pay tax as well. So please, guys, if you want to enroll in the workshop, just comment workshop in the chat box so that I can share the link with you. So thank you so much, Hardik, for coming in. We will keep in touch.
Perfect.
Perfect.